So it's the final day. It's Mohun Bagan versus Bengaluru. जितना क्रेजी ये सीजन था उतना ही क्रेजी लास्ट प्लेऑफ्स एंड सेमीफाइनल्स थे. So in the last semi-final match, Mohun Bagan did a magical comeback against Jamshedpur FC. But that match reminded me of another match which happened in the same Salt Lake Stadium in the year 2020. क्यों? याद आया? It was ATK versus Bengaluru. ATK were down 1-0 and then a magic happened. ATK made a crazy comeback and went to the final to win their third ever ISL trophy. और उस मैच के एक हीरो थे डेविड विलियम्स, वन ऑफ द मोस्ट एंटरटेनिंग प्लेयर्स आई हैव एवर सीन इन द आईएसएल, जिनके पास काउंटलेस रिकॉर्ड्स हैं. द गोल स्कोरर ऑफ द फास्टेस्ट गोल इन द आईएसएल हिस्ट्री, उसके साथ साथ वन ऑफ द टॉप स्कोरर्स इन द आईएसएल प्लेऑफ्स एंड द ओनली प्लेयर to have featured in the first ever edition and the current edition of the A League, a legend of both the Indian Super League and the A League. So guys, we got the opportunity to sit with the legend himself. मैं अभी भी बहुत nostalgic feel करता हूँ when I talk about ATK. That Roy Krishna, David Williams and Prabir Das pair was crazy. So thanks a lot from the bottom of our heart, David, for this opportunity and being the first guest of our podcast. So guys, this is Uncut and Unscripted, a podcast like no other. A podcast जहाँ हम फुटबॉल आइकन से बात करते हैं about their career, their life and of course football. जहाँ पे हम आपको उनका एक ऐसा साइड दिखाएंगे which you have never seen before. अगर आप इस चैनल में नए हो तो प्लीज सब्सक्राइब and press the bell notification icon so that you don't miss any notification from us. So guys, this is Uncut and Unscripted, Episode 1, David Williams. So first of all, good afternoon and good evening. I think it's evening there. So how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for asking. I'm currently injured at the moment. I have a ACL
Yeah.
injury. So I'm in rehab. I'm 8 weeks post surgery. So I'm well into, the gym work and on the bike and things like that. Unfortunately, I'm not running yet, but yeah, I've missed quite a few games with my current team, which is Perth Glory
Yep.
FC over here in the A League.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm just trying to do my rehab and not sure what's next as the season's about to be finished, and I'll go into the off season with an injury, but that's all right. I feel like I've had a good career, so and not had major injury, so I can count myself lucky.
Hope you get well soon. And I think you miss the hot and humid weather of Kolkata as it is right now. How's the weather in Perth?
Yeah, I don't miss the humidity and the amount of rain that I've seen there. But look, it doesn't matter where I was, the weather is just part of the job.
True.
So if I was playing football in Kolkata, it doesn't matter. I was still happy. Whether or not we were in other places and it was cold, I didn't have a problem. But the weather in Perth is absolutely beautiful. Today was sunny and 26 degrees. So other days it's been really, really hot. It was last week, it was 38, 39 degrees, but a very dry heat. But I live 2 minutes away from the beach. So and it's just a nice lifestyle that I've got here. Kind of a bit of a reason why I've stayed in the A League and haven't come back to India. But yeah, I'm very, very happy. The weather's good, so life is good.
Okay, so we all know that how successful Australian cricket team is. So was there any pressure over you in your childhood to pursue cricket, or your parents were happy with you pursuing football as a career?
No, not in terms of cricket, that was always a you play at the school, you go to the cricket net. I grew up as a young boy, maybe from 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe even further. So
Hmm.
from the ages of about 9 till 16, I grew up going to cricket nets around the road from my house. So I
You were
loved
a
playing
batsman
cricket.
or a bowler?
No, batsman, left-handed. So yeah.
Nice.
Um, Yeah, I used to watch Michael Bevan a lot, an old Australian cricketer of, and he used to just slog the ball left-handed, and he was someone I tried to used as inspiration to play the game. He didn't like to block or defend the ball. He liked to attack. And that's what I did. Sometimes we didn't have two pads in the nets. We only had one, so you put it on the front leg.
Yeah.
We didn't have any boxes either to protect our special parts, but yeah, beach cricket all the time, cricket in the street on our roads as kids. So I mean, it's still part. I try and get my kids to play, and I a few days ago, and we're having a look at cricket sets for my kids, just plastic ones, just so they can start getting into it. We couldn't find the right one, so I think we'll order off Amazon or something. So.
So how did football happen to you? Like you have said, cricket has been a major part of your life. So how did football enter into your life?
My grandfather was from Scotland, so the
Okay.
influence of Scottish football and from him growing up, he always wanted me to play. My dad always, we always had balls around at our house to kick around, and my dad obviously saw that there was something, a bit of talent there and how I would kick a ball, and so he thought he'd put me into to soccer. I mean, I loved rugby league as a kid, and my dad played rugby league. But there was a bit of bashing and tackling and all that, and I don't think my mum was too keen on me playing that type of physical
I
sport.
think I
So
think they are proud of you right now, seeing the condition you are in.
definitely. I
Definitely.
think definitely. I still watch a lot of rugby league to this day and love the game. But, my dad saw a talent. My granddad, has come from football in the UK, Scotland. So, yeah, that's how I really kept in the game and kept
So
playing.
any childhood memory of football you still cherish till this day?
Yeah, I still remember turning up to games, and the reward for getting man of the match was you get a certificate after the game with a voucher for McDonald's to get a free
That's cool. That's
cheeseburger
cool.
meal. So in the mind to have that as the incentive to play well, man of the match, and you get a free cheeseburger meal. So
So
then
the
after the
cheeseburger was the
game.
main motivation for you that time, right?
Food. Every kid loves a cheeseburger. So,
True.
after the game, if I got man of the match, we'd drive through McDonald's, and it was such a buzz. So, like, little memories like that. As a kid as well, I used to watch Mark Viduka and Harry Kewell when they were at Leeds,
Yep. Yep.
um, watching them in the Premier League, and things like that. So, they were my inspiration when I was a kid. Watching those two, probably some of the most famous Australian
True.
players, to still be there now, in the minds of a lot of people. So, um, that was how I continued playing, is watching these guys and being, I want to be in the Premier League. I want to be a professional. So yeah, that's how it started.
So we have seen that you have had quite a career. You started with Queensland Road, and then from some secret sources, we got to know that you have also trained with Club Brugge and a team that is currently sitting at the top of the Premier League table, Liverpool. And then you went to Brøndby, and then later
Yeah.
you went to Hellas. I guess I'm pronouncing it right. So
Yeah.
what do you think? Like at such a young age, you left your home to pursue your career. Was there any difficulty or something that has shaped you for the rest of your career?
Yeah, so in my head, I just wanted to play football. So leaving home at 17 years old, I didn't have a problem. My mum trained me of how to do the washing and some cooking, so there was some preparation already to go. I didn't miss home. I missed my friends. Of course, I missed my family, but I could put that aside because I was training every day. I was in Europe. So while I was in year 12, my final year at school, in one school holidays, I went on a trial to Liverpool, to Club Brugge, and to Brøndby, and I did well at all three. Liverpool wanted to give me a contract, but immediately they wanted to loan me out to a second division club in Spain. there was a big influence with Rafa Benitez and those type of coaches throughout Liverpool. So they said, yes, you're good enough, but obviously 17 years old, you're not going to be in the
First,
Liverpool
yeah.
first team. Also, the Liverpool reserve team is the youth team, so to speak. That was pretty much just English players,
Mm,
and them living at home. They didn't want to house um, foreign players and things like that. They didn't. And that's a big thing for a lot of clubs back then. Is they might sign you to the first team contract, but they loan you out immediately somewhere to develop, to get
true.
stronger, to get minutes. Where I didn't need to be in a youth team setup. I needed to be playing because I came from Queensland Raw,
Mm,
um, training and playing with men for 6 months before. So I had the physicality about it. I didn't need to go back to kids. Anyway, I didn't choose that because um, I didn't want to go to Spain. It was a bit intimidating that, but when I was in Denmark, I got a really good feeling about the club with Bromby. Everyone, obviously, a Scandinavian country. They
mm,
spoke English really well. I had a really good feeling with the coach there at the time as well. So I wouldn't say I regret not signing for Liverpool and going out on loan, but my career has shaped the way it has because I was in Bromby, and then after Bromby, I went back into the A League to a club called North Queensland Fury,
mhm.
and that's where I met my wife. She's from that town called
Oh,
Townsville.
lovely.
Um, and because of going back there, now we're married and we have two kids. And
So as they
and
say,
I think
everything happens for a reason. It's true, I guess.
exactly, I'm a big believer in that. And my path of football has taken me that way. And I think if I chose something different, I wouldn't have the kids I have today, which I'm very proud of.
True.
So yeah, the decisions I've made throughout my career has led me to where I am now.
So what's the basic difference you felt when you compare Australian football culture to European football culture?
Um, the European football culture, that there's way more fans, that
True.
everyone lives and breathes it's part of life. In Australia, you have cricket, you have AFL, you have rugby, you have soccer. It's, we there's times where two local clubs in Melbourne get a bigger crowd than some A-League clubs. And that shouldn't be normal, we are the top level in Australia and we get
Mhm.
lower. So it comes down to marketing, it comes down to the brand of football, results, all that type of stuff. Whereas Europe, no matter what, there's still people there, and kids obviously don't have many other options. When they're growing up, parents, give them, football, and if they don't see them well, they'll go off into other sports. So in that sense, I see that as a big difference. Australian kids, when they're growing up, we are very spoiled. We're a very spoiled country. We have access to parks, to the beaches, to good grass, to all different sports in school, but all the facilities. So whether it be tennis courts,
Mm,
basketball courts, soccer fields, netball courts, all these different sports. So we have access to all these things, whereas kids, say for example, India,
mhm.
there's not many places to go
No,
out
no,
and play football.
true.
The best place to play cricket is in the street.
Streets, yes. You
It's
have
like
played
in
cricket
in
in streets here.
yeah, exactly. So it's in Europe they have a lot of football, but South America as well. The only place to play football is really on the streets, and that's how you grow up. Where
Exactly, exactly.
I
I
don't
agree
think
with you.
Australia. We have all the facilities, all the infrastructure, a lot of money in that sense, but because we are so spoilt with all the different sports and what we get to try out, I think that's why we're not at the high level of, say, football, as what we could be, because we have the great coaches, again, great fields, money for the gear, but it comes down to being spoilt, in my opinion.
So, for the audience, many of you don't know that David Williams was voted the Melbourne City's Player of the Year for 2013-14. And with that, most importantly, he was their first ever Indigenous player. So, two of the biggest milestones of your career, I think. How did that shape you? Was there a responsibility on your shoulder to represent your people?
Yes, yeah, in a way, because there was maybe five or six Indigenous players in the league at the time. So it was very important for me to be, yeah, an Aboriginal player and
Hmm.
person to be playing at the top level in Australia, and been doing it for consistently, and also to be at a club like Melbourne City, where it's owned by the City Group, to have that milestone. Yeah, it's great to have your name in history as well with that. It feels very good. I've played with some really big players in at Melbourne Heart, Melbourne City, because it changed ownership at that
Hmm.
time. Played with Harry Kewell there, David Villa, Damien Duff, and a really, really good Dutch player called Orlando Angela, but he's not as famous as the other players. Um, so it did really give me a good opportunity to do that, and to be Indigenous, coming from the background that my dad's come from, to playing for the Socceroos and all the levels of national team. I feel very privileged, but it's not because I'm Aboriginal and because I'm athletic. I still have to work hard. I have to be
True, true.
committed. I have
Absolutely.
to do the right things, have the right attitude. So no matter what your background is, if you can mix those things together, you
Hmm.
can, those things are more important than talent. So,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, because look, I watch the ISL still, and there's some players out there I see technically they're not as gifted as others, but they have a good attitude, they work hard, and they're very committed. So if you can mix those three things, you can be a professional, which I see that coaches like to reward players who have those three things.
True.
So.
So, what was it like to share that dressing room with one of the legends of football, David Villa? Like, he was a World Cup winner and Euro winner. He won everything there was to win in club football. So, how was it having him in your dressing room?
Yeah, he was the most down to earth type of player to be there. Also, actually, Damien Duff was also very down to earth as well. But David Villa, just he showed by example how when he turned up to training, he was already, stretching and getting his body ready for the training ground, and he would do extra work, even though he's done all this, won all
Has
the
won everything.
trophies
Still,
and
he's
medals,
doing
all
that.
that. He is still such a good role model for the others just by watching him physically, not by him speaking so much. His English wasn't as good as what it was when he left because he was doing English lessons and things like that. But it was very good to learn off his movement in the box and his striking and his type of finishing that he would do when we would do shooting exercises. So yeah, he was really good for my career, I think. To play with someone like that. Yeah, and I went and visited him New York, and when he was playing for New York City FC,
Really?
we met up, and he brought me a jersey. So he's a really humble guy,
True.
So and when he was leaving Melbourne after he left Melbourne City, and we had a little goodbye dinner for him. He organized it and invited everyone to a Spanish restaurant, and the
Wow.
we boys were drinking and eating, and the bill was, I think, $4,000 or something, and he just tapped his card and he paid for everything. So he's a genuine nice guy. So it's really nice to play with people like that and keep those relationships.
So you were one of the legends of the A League. You have almost made your legacy in football. After that, India and ATK came calling for you. So what went through your mind before you signed the contract with ATK?
Look, I didn't know much about ATK. It was more after the interest came from, speaking with my agent and things like that. Then I did a bit of research into the ISL, and then I saw, of course, the past players that had been at ATK, and seeing,
True.
oh, okay, this it's a bit of more of a serious league than what I thought.
Mm.
Obviously, a billionaire's playground with, the money splashing around here and there. But I got to a point in my career where I was a bit frustrated from having a really good year at Wellington,
Wellington,
and
right?
then what was offered after that from other clubs wasn't really respectful in a way that I thought I played, which is the clubs, some clubs go through financial problem, they have a budget, there's a salary cap, and I understand that. But I wanted to um, get more out of my career from having a good year at Wellington. I think I scored a lot of good goals there,
True. True.
and played an important part. And then also I left Wellington not having a contract, and I went back to Townsville where my wife's from. We had our base there, and ATK, and they came with a contract. And yes, the money's always a good thing, but it
Definitely.
was also about the lifestyle and the experience. And before India, I'd experienced Denmark. I went to Hungary, where that wasn't the best city, but it was about European football. So I've never really based my contracts on money. It's more about what experience can I have traveling.
Hmm.
Um, and seeing new cultures. I'm not paying for visas, I'm not paying for flights. Why not do something like
True.
that and experience that? Because I know when my career finishes, I'm not going to be doing as much traveling like
True.
that.
True.
So I just saw it as an opportunity to experience the world, have a experienced life, and take my wife and kids with me. And fortunately for me, I went to a really good club, and we were successful there, and I enjoyed my time there a lot. So
So, tell me one thing, like, did your perception about Indian football and fans here changed after you came here?
yeah, massively, big time, because the support. I just wish that India had purpose-built stadiums for
Hmm.
football. Imagine the atmosphere and the product that
True.
the
True.
ISL, like you have all this money in going to like the cricket and paying
Other sports.
players and stuff. Imagine you created a stadium of 30,000 people that was on the touch lines, like,
Wow,
I
that
look at,
would be
you
awesome.
know, Mr. Goenka, right? Sanjeev Goenka, the money that he's put into the cricket, if he put $20 million or
Would be awesome.
towards a stadium of 40,000, 50,000, the atmosphere and the product that football could bring. Of course, the land is hard to come by, the infrastructure is
Hmm.
hard to come by, and it would take years and years, but it could be happen. I would love to be involved in a project like that, because having the cricket stadiums and being so far away, even with that, the atmosphere is electric. But imagine it being closer.
Really close to me. Yeah.
The brand of football would be better, I believe, if you have purpose-built football stadiums.
So let me take you back to a date, 8th March 2020. I hope you remember the date. It's very special because it was one of the best football matches I've ever watched. ATK was down 1-0 against Bengaluru, and then a magical comeback happened. You scored two goals, and we went crazy in the stand. So take me back to the goal, the header you scored. What was going through your mind?
Yeah, look, it was so I still think about that one. I was watching Bengaluru last night versus FC Goa.
You're down
And
2-0.
yes, I saw that. And so my like thinking about that as well, obviously there's brings back memories. I just knew we could do it. We're at home for the second leg. We're coached well. We have such a good team. We had I wouldn't say much better team than Bengaluru, but we deserved to be where we were. But again, like it came to the time where that was a big moment in the game. We kept on going. Bengaluru were getting a little bit nervous as well. And again, we created a good combination between myself, Roy Krishna, and Prabir, right? So Prabir knew where to put the ball
Awesome.
for
Yeah.
Roy and for me. And that's the good recipe of a team, players knowing each other, where they like to run. And I just saw all the Bengaluru players going to protect their goal. So I stepped back to have more space. To be honest, I was surprised myself at how much power I got on the header to get
True.
past a
Gurpreet.
big keeper like Gurpreet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was very surprised in that sense. But again, if you don't shoot or you don't attempt to shoot, you're not going to score. So I just thought I'd try, and to be honest, that was one of the best feeling goals I've had in my career. The atmosphere again at that stadium, the moment. But I remember after celebrating the goal, Prabir was saying to me, "Is that it? Are we draw or are we winning? Are we because of the aggregate? Is it 3-2
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
are we? 2-2, oh, like, oh, 3-3 now. I said, no, 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 we're winning now. So let's keep going. So he was confused. He didn't know. And that was also what was special because in the moment, everyone's head is not straight. But you know, you have as an older player and a more experienced player in that team, you have to keep a cool head. You have to stay mentally strong, and we fought out the game. And you know what? It wasn't just me. Everyone in that team that night performed well. John Johnson wasn't playing many games, and then he gets thrown in the deep end, and he was
So you did your
unbelievable.
research before, right, for the match. You were ready for the match to just go and bang on some goals.
You try, you want to score, but also Aranam, he was fantastic that night. He was honestly super. But again, you can't say one person was better than the other.
It
So
was a collective effort.
it was by every single player in that team. So it wasn't just me because I scored 2 goals. We just really had a good night out. So I do miss that. I love Indian football still. So yeah, very happy.
Okay, okay. So see you in part two. And please tell everyone to subscribe to us so that they can see you in part two as well.
Sounds good. No worries. Subscribe, everyone.
And so he said it. अगर आपको पार्ट टू देखना है तो प्लीज सब्सक्राइब एंड विद दैट थैंक यू डेविड वंस अगेन. He was one of the most humble and chill guy I have ever come across. Thank you again for this opportunity. तो guys, please subscribe and press the bell notification icon. And उसके साथ साथ don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. ऐसा कंटेंट आपने इंडियन फुटबॉल में कभी नहीं देखा होगा. That is our guarantee. And so this was Uncut and Unscripted, Episode 1, Part 1, David Williams. See you in the next one.